Oh, really?
On top of here.
Oh,
Yeah. Game tales from Springville. Epic backyard.
Now the traffic was awful coming from the south today.
Oh, man.
Big wreck.
I used to live literally like 200 yards that way. If you could drive straight, which you can't, but I'm like 20 minutes away from here. But it's good.
Awesome. Okay, so before I get started, what, I guess, questions or issues or concerns or thoughts do you guys have about tracking or being able to improve your tracking with Google Analytics to Facebook, creating better Facebook audiences, that type of thing? That way, as we go, I kind of make sure I hit on those. But
I've never heard of Tag Manager.
Okay.
That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
It's recording now.
Yep, you're good. Yep. And if nothing, then as we go, just obviously ask questions as you come. So, so first things first, that's going to make it the easiest, or what I found the easiest when I'm setting this up for myself and clients, is to basically have like a tracking plan before you go in. So this is, for me, I found it easier to set up this after I built the funnel, because a lot of these you'll use like the URL paths, or the URLs of the pages. So for me, it's been easier to have all of that stuff done, so I'm not having to go and update it constantly. So just kind of word to the wise.
So it's kind of like when you do like an exclusion audience or something, like if they hit on this page, then
Yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah, but if you have, say a 5-step funnel, so you have like your sales page, order form page, then you have 1-2 upsells, and then maybe a downsell, and then a confirmation page. You want to make sure those pages are all built so that when you set this stuff up and you go in to apply tags, some of these will ask for what's the URL that you want this tag to be applied on. And if you don't have that page built, you can't build that tag because the page isn't done. So I typically will set up all my tracking at the end when the funnel is done and it's essentially ready to go live. This is kind of my last step. That way I'm not going and having to update URLs and find something that's broken and then not know where it's broken from. So, and what I mean by a tracking plan is to understand kind of what type of tracking you want to do. Do you want to just do a very basic like opt-in, they hit the thank you page, and so you're just tracking that as a lead? Is your funnel, so this again is dependent on the type of funnel, which is why I say have your funnel done first. Is your funnel going to be a sales page, order form? Do you have 3 upsells and you want to track each and every individual upsell and the values of those upsells so you can report those back?
Good.
Yeah, so we can do all of that, but it's easier to have an idea of what that tracking is going to be before you just start going in and making stuff, because then you're like, oh, did I already do that? Do I even need to track it? But if you have an idea and say, okay, I want to track this sale, I want to track this action on this page, I want to track this page traffic. If you have an idea of that, then it makes this process go a lot faster. Okay, so if that makes sense. Okay, and as I go along, if you guys have questions, let me know, and we'll just go over them. Like I said, this is total like workshop. I'm just going to show you like literally from beginning to end. So the 2 things that you will need, both are free, is a Google Analytics account and a Google Tag Manager account. When you set these up, make sure you own the Gmail account that you set it up with. So it's important. So if you work for a company, say an agency, and they give you like Reno at myagency.com, you don't own the myagency.com domain, so make sure you set this up under your Gmail account, because you can always give access and share access, okay? So if you're setting this stuff up, just make sure you're using a Gmail account that you own. So if you ever get fired or quit, or you no longer pay for a G Suite, and you get rid of that domain, you still have all your stuff. Okay. Does anybody need help setting up a Google Analytics account or a Tag Manager account? Okay. So the first things first is you go to analytics.google.com, and it will ask you. Let's see if I can sign out here, and then. because I already have one. Okay, so you just go to Google Analytics. You can Google it. It's probably the first one that comes up. And then pick your Gmail account that you have. So this is the one that I do all my business stuff under. And then you're going to log in. Okay. And then once you are logged in, so this is one that I was just setting up last night to kind of make sure I had all this laid out for you guys. So here will be your Google Analytics. You obviously won't have any accounts in here. So all you're going to do is you're going to create a new account. Where is that?
No, you're good.
Okay, so you might come to this page. If not, you go to the settings button down here, or the admin, and then you're just gonna go create account. Okay, and then this is your, like you name whatever you want. So I name it by business. So for me, because I have 4 or 5, I just name it by the business of what I'm doing. So we can go testing. And then obviously you can read through these, basically terms of service agreements. So obviously I recommend you read those, but it's up to you. And then next, if you are, yeah, it's like, don't sue me if they change something on there. That's why I said read it. If you are doing apps, you can select analytics for apps, and then apps and web is a new beta that they have coming out. I've never done any apps, so I don't know how to set it up for that. So obviously I just do web. And then website name, again, I just do the same testing site. I just do the same name that I named it. And then you want to make sure that the website is like where everything is housed. So if you put your custom domain on ClickFunnels, it's that custom domain. If you're doing this on a website and it's say WordPress or whatever other funnel software builders that you have, make sure that it's the domain that you are wanting to track everything off of, okay? And then
say that again. So if you have a custom domain in ClickFunnels, do you do ClickFunnels or do you do custom?
you do the actual domain name, so not ClickFunnels.
Okay.
And then you select the category that you are in. So most of mine are beauty and fitness. And then you just set your time and then create. And then when you create it, so I'm obviously not going to save that, you will have, it'll show up over here. Okay. So you can see here's a couple that I was playing around with last night. Okay.
And that social beauty one that's crossed out, is that one that you stopped or just?
It was one that I was playing around with, and I deleted it because then I noticed I had 2 of them. So then I wanted to make sure I was using the right numbers for the right one. So, yeah. Okay. And then on Google Tag Manager, it's going to be the same thing. If you just Google Tag Manager, it's probably the first one that pops up. And then you will just create an account. Again, sign in with the same Gmail. I found that it's easier just making sure that your Google things that you're signing into are the same, but it's not required, just so we know. And then you will come to a page similar to this. You probably won't have anything here if you've never set it up before. And then it's just create account. And it's very similar. I name them the same. That way I know what business is what business, because I do manage a couple. The naming convention is literally up to you. However you want to name it, just so that you know which business you're talking about. Again, it's just name, obviously country. I don't ever click the share data. You can, but because you are in already analytics, that's sharing all your data anyway. So it's up to you. It doesn't really change anything. And then container name, I just put the website. So like testing.com. So if that's the domain that you're using. And then web, and then you just hit create. And then when you do, you will have your accounts here, okay? And so you can see that I'm using this one. Okay, and so notice right here, you have workspace versions and admin. So your admin is basically, obviously, where all your settings and stuff are gonna be. So first thing that you want to do is you are going to want to install the Google Tag Manager code, okay? So typically after you've created one, it'll probably pop up and it'll say, here's your
Like the head tag.
your head tag and here's your body tag. You'll want to copy those and I'll show you where to paste them. If you ever click out of that, this is how you get back to it, okay? So if you're like, oh, I don't have my website set up or I can't log in yet because something's happening. If you log into Tag Manager, go to admin and then install Google Tag Manager, here's your codes. So don't think that if you close it, it's gone. Yeah, okay. And then this literally is the only code that you have to install on your website. So from here on out, Tag Manager or Google Tag Manager becomes essentially your hub for managing all your tracking, all of your conversions, all of that. So it's one place to literally house everything. Okay. So for the head tag, you would copy that. And I have 2 page builders, so I'm going to show you where to put them, just so that if you have, say, like WordPress or you're using another page builder, this is kind of what you're looking for. Okay. So in ClickFunnels, you're going to go to your funnels. And let's do. Okay, so it's up here in settings, okay, on the far right. And so everything that you do in here is for literally every page that you build. This is a funnel-wide settings area, okay? So what you would do is you would take this head tag, you would copy it, and you can see here, it's pasted right there in the head tag, okay? And that's it. And then you'll take the body tag, so you'll take this one and you'll copy it, and then you'll put it in the body tracking code there. And then just make sure you scroll to the bottom, save and update, and that's it. And that's installed, okay?
So I don't have to go there in the other pages and install the...
Nope. Once you do that, it's done. The only thing you'll need from here on out with any of like your pages here are going to be the like URLs. So right here are the only things that you'll need to copy essentially off of ClickFunnels or whatever page builder you're using. That's why I say it's best to have your funnel done so that these URLs are set and they're not going to change. Because if they do change, then your tracking and what we set up here in a minute isn't going to actually track and look right. Yeah.
What if you don't have Google Analytics installed on your funnel yet?
That's fine. You actually don't install Google Analytics on the
So
funnel.
this is like the container for.
Yep. So we're going to install it in Tag Manager, and that will house everything. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. If you do a different funnel builder, here is essentially you're looking for like head markup. That's where you're going to basically post that head script, and then the body script would be here. Okay, so that's essentially what you're looking for. If you're using
What builder
WordPress,
is that?
it's called Easy Funnels.
Oh, you're going to show me logo or something inside.
It's like, I'm sure it's the same.
Yeah.
You're just looking for wherever you can place your head code and then the body code. If it's in WordPress, typically you have to go down to like the theme
Style sheets.
and the editor and the style sheet, but then it's typically one of the first two.
Or there's a plugin.
Yeah.
A plugin will do it too.
Silhouette and then we'll do WordPress.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you do, man?
But that's literally all you're working for is just either like where you can place your head, the head tag and the body tag. Okay. Cool. Anything issues with that? It's pretty simple. Yeah. Okay. So, what we are going to do now is this is where we're going to. So there's kind of two ideas on setting up variables. I set up variables a little different than some people. I'm not saying one way is right or one way is wrong. This just is what has worked for me. So I go to variables and then configure. And if it's checked, all it means is that it's turned on and it's available for us to basically tag or target later on. So I'll kind of show you the ones that I have left on because I found them useful when I'm setting up various tracking and tagging later on. So your pages, page URL, obviously you want to track by that because that's the URL.
I'm not at the same place where you are. How did you get there?
So if you are, where are you at?
I'm kind of there, yeah. I'm kind of
Okay,
there.
so down here on variables,
Okay.
right there.
Configure.
And so, and then yours probably won't, you'll probably only have a couple of these.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you which ones I turn on. So I go to configure, and then you just check the ones that you turn on, that you want available to turn on. So I do the top 4 pages, and then an event, and then I don't really worry about these right here. Don't worry about the error ones. I turn on all the clicks because you can literally track people by if they click on an image, that even if the image doesn't go anywhere, you can like track them just by a click.
Or like a button click as well.
Button clicks as well. Then we can start tracking by click URLs. So if they click on something and they're going off, so this is really good for affiliate. If you have your affiliate code, you can click by the URL that you're sending them to. So when you build a bridge page, we can now tag and build an audience off of every single one of those clicks. So that's something that we can do. So,
Wish I used that back in Kickstarter marketing.
right? Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
affiliate, same thing.
So I turn on all the click stuff. I've never used Click ID, but at some point I may, but I just turn it on because it's there and I may want to use it. Form elements. This is really good if on your website, on your funnels, you have any type of form, opt-in. I turn all these on. History, don't really worry about. And then I turn on the videos. I leave video status off and then video visible. They just don't make sense to me as we'll go on, you'll see. And then scroll depth threshold. You can literally now segment your audiences depending on how deep into your website they scroll, which is why I set this one on. Okay. And then if you scroll to the bottom, I don't believe you guys will.
Just X out of that then.
Yep, and just X out, and then you should now see all of these listed here, right? Okay, and then at the bottom, yeah, you guys won't have any of these yet, but this is kind of the difference with how some people set this up and some do it differently. Like I said, there's not a right or a wrong, it's just a preference. So I set up anything that could change based on the account that you're using. So like Facebook pixels, if you have, the reason I do it this way is because, and it's probably more relevant now with Facebook shutting down all the business managers and ad accounts lately. If you don't do it this way, when you set up your tags later on, for every Facebook thing that you set up, you will have to go in and update your Facebook ad account ID. If you do it this way, you only have to change it once and it auto pushes to everything else, which is why I do it this way. So,
So explain that just a little bit more.
okay, so you know when you have your Facebook pixel code, and it's the long snippet of code, and then within there's like, what, 9 or 12 digits? That's your ad account. Yeah. So that's really the only part of the code that changes. So when we set up tags, we'll use that code a lot through the various tags that we're using. But if your ad account were to be shut down and you're like, okay, I want to do all of this again, but on a new ad account, you would have to go through and change it in all of these tags that we're going to set up. But if you do it this way, when we place all those tags, where that ad account ID is, I place this, it's called the Facebook Pixel ID variable. And so it doesn't show my code, it just shows the variable, and then Google Tag Manager auto-populates that. So then if I get a new ad account, all I have to do is click it, come in here, I change this, and now it pushes out to everything, and that's the only change I have.
That could be the same if you're, like we do Facebook ads for clients, same
Mhm.
type of thing where you just copy.
Yeah, and so once you guys have with doing this with clients, yeah. So and I'll show you. So with clients, once you get this all set up on like your base structure, and you'll kind of figure out after you do it for a minute like what works. Because dentists are going to be different than chiropractors. All that's different than what I do for beauty. So it's just you're going to figure out like what tags and tracking you want. When you figure out what that base is, you can have a template, and you can export the template from my Google Tag Manager to say now your clients, and then all you have to do is go update their pixel ID, and it just pushes it out because you've created the variable and it's already in there. Okay, so it makes your client onboarding and stuff super simple. Okay, so all you're going to do is you're going to click New, and then every time I'm up here, this is just naming for your own sake. This doesn't go anywhere. So whatever naming convention you guys are used to, feel free to do. This just works for me. So ID. And then I set up my folders. So I have one folder, so you probably won't see folders here. You'll just create a new one. And this is just for, again, for organization. This has nothing to do, it won't, if you don't do any of this, it's totally fine. It's just kind of for peace of mind and keeping things organized for yourself. So I do in all pages, and then basically my 3 ad platforms that I have worked on or plan to work on or have codes and tracking and stuff for. So if you have, say like Udemy, if you do the, what's the traffic called from Udemy?
Solo ads?
Yeah, solo ads. So if you have, say, like a bunch of solo ad providers, you can make a folder called solo ads, and then all of your pixels for the various solo ads you can put in there. Just keep it organized. But it literally doesn't change anything. It's just for your peace of mind. So I have all pages, which are going to be all of my base pixels. And then Facebook, I'll later organize into my Facebook events that I want to track. Google Analytics, so Google Ads, all of their conversions, all that tracking that I set up will go in there. And then Pinterest, you can do page views, conversions, and all that stuff through Pinterest as well. So any tags will go in that one. So then I can keep them separate. Okay. So you can pick your folder. We'll just do that. And then for Facebook, it's going to be a constant. Okay. And then all you're going to do is you're going to get your pixel ID. So do you guys know how to find your pixel IDs? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. I won't go over that. So then all you need to do is you would paste it there. Obviously that's not right. And you don't have to format it or anything because it's in the format that it needs to be in. And then you will just click Save. So I'm obviously not going to save it. And so when you're done, it literally should just look like this. Okay. Then for Pinterest, it's the same thing. It's a constant. So again, you just click right here to New. Name it whatever you want. Mine is just Pinterest tag ID, I believe. Yep, tag ID. For Google Analytics, this one's a little different. So what you're going to do is you will go, oops, I should click New. And you will go scroll down and you will find this that says Google Analytics settings. Okay, so if you scroll down, it's like 3/4 of the way, halfway. It's this one right here, Google Analytics settings. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to take your right here, this UA number. So that's the number you're looking for, okay?
So did you say that was a constant as well?
So no, I don't. If you scroll down to the analytics settings,
Oh, okay.
I can't find my pixel ID.
on Facebook. So
Go to your business manager.
yeah,
Where's that? Okay.
Yeah. Which one are you wanting to do it for?
I don't think I've got it set up yet.
And you need to add the page. So that's your ad ID. So you're trying to do it for your ad account.
And the ad account.
Yeah, you do it for the ad account. So that's the ID right there.
That's the one. So that.
You can also find it when you create another one, so go ahead and click in there. Sorry.
I know every time I log in,
Probably
it's
changed it
like
3 times since
I called
you're
the
in
unit
yeah.
3 days later from
From
my
my
house.
on,
Holy crap,
so
everything
it's
was
like,
different.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
I promise I
Usually
know
it used
what
to
I'm
be
doing.
like
Right.
that's essentially right there on the front page.
I know I logged into
Your ads manager,
Zapier yesterday
Yeah.
to do some stuff. I'm like, wow, this
Yeah,
is
that's your ads.
way
Oh,
different.
did they
Like,
move all that around?
Yeah.
Specific ads.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
you're doing
while he's helping him with that, if you guys don't know where your tracking ID is for analytics, if you go down here to the admin, the little gear icon, if you have multiple accounts, you can obviously select which account you're on right here. And then all you're going to do is click on tracking info and then tracking code.
It's just that you moving.
Yep, and then you just copy that right there. So if you don't have it, if you didn't write it down, that's just how you find it, so that you don't have to worry about
It's,
it.
the U is for urchin. Urchin is who they bought it from originally a long time ago.
Yeah.
I thought it was for you or something. Wasn't
James always got for some,
Google stuff.
some obscure
I mean, this is
trivia.
Facebook stuff, but James knows the Google world. So.
Yeah.
And the
And then-
Facebook pixel ID doesn't have to be 9, right? Because mine seems like it's a lot longer.
Mine seems a lot longer too.
Yeah, it's like it's
18.
9 or
It's a
12,
long-
The less you
15.
use
Yeah,
it, the longer it is.
Yeah, there you go. That's why.
Okay, and then after you type that in,
It's
right.
I see a 9 right there.
You don't have to set anything else up for kind of what we're doing. If you get into some really advanced stuff, there's things we can change, but honestly, it's very rarely that you have to do
We're
that.
already into
So-
pretty advanced stuff right now.
So-
I don't know. I've seen your active campaign stuff. That was pretty advanced.
Yeah.
It all depends on your flavor here.
I got lost. I haven't done anything with Google Analytics yet.
Okay.
Can we?
Yep. So you'll just go.
Lines?
Nope, you're fine.
Are we
So,
recording this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. I was like, I'm definitely gonna have to go back through. I'm like
yeah. You're
5
good.
steps behind.
Nope,
Okay,
you're
so
good.
I'm back at my home page.
Okay, so you're back to this right
Where I
here.
got my one user defined variable.
Okay.
Okay.
So then you'll go new.
Make a new one. And call it Google Analytics.
Yep.
Whatever you
That's what I call. What did I say? Google
I'm
Analytics
fine
ID.
to,
Yeah.
To go with best practices.
So Google Analytics ID. If you want to put it in a folder, feel free. Again, don't really have to. It's up to you. Then you just click here in the middle box, and then you're going to scroll down. It's like between halfway and three quarters. So it's this
Okay.
Google Analytics settings.
Okay.
Click that. And then this right here, the tracking ID, is where you paste your.
You do want the UA in there.
Yep. So you want the UA dash number dash.
Where you grab
Number.
your change from there.
Okay, I'm having troubles copying it.
If you go to,
Where do you go get it?
so if you
Oh,
go
I
down,
was gonna say it's Control C.
Yeah, well,
if you go down here to the gear icon,
right click the mouse.
yeah. So if you go down here to the gear icon, so you make sure you're selected on the account that you
Yes.
want to be on,
Yes. Yes.
and then tracking info, tracking code,
Oh. Tracking info, tracking.
and then it's right there.
Awesome.
Yep.
971.
be careful with those dots.
971. Okay, that's the same as.
And then we just leave it as auto.
Yep. And then just leave it as auto, and then save.
Let's see.
And so I don't do Twitter ads. I don't do Bing ads. I probably should learn them, but I haven't. It would be the exact same thing.
I did that years ago. It's,
Bing.
I think you can actually export Google Ads, right, and import them right into Bing.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's really not too.
They try to make it really easy because
Yeah.
they're like they are
They-
totally
it's
useless.
like, well, we're supposed to take back up.
Yeah.
You can do pretty much the same with the audio.
But any other paid ad platform that has tracking IDs of some kind, you can set up the variable and it's the exact same process. Most of them will be a constant. It's only the Google platforms that really have a setting because obviously you're working within Google, so they try to make it as easy as possible. Okay, so then now that we have that done, that kind of preps everything to make everything we do later on easier. Okay, so the way that I like to think of this is you really only work within two areas. You have your tags, and then you have your triggers. So triggers are the actual actions that your users or the traffic on your pages, on your funnels, are going to be taking. The triggers can be views, they can be timer based, they can be URL based, we can get into like what you can do with those, but just realize that triggers are universal. So that's what we'll use to basically set up all of our tracking and our conversions. And then tags is essentially the platform that we want to report those triggers to. Okay, does that make sense? So tags, you can see here, I have active campaign. PA for me is just Pinterest ads. And then you can see Facebook Pixel, Google Analytics. So this is kind of a base for me that I use to get started, and then we can get into like actual event tagging. But I kind of wanted to have a base to show you guys where to start from. Okay. So all you're going to do is when you're setting this up, the really cool thing about the way Google Tag Manager works is if you go to preview, let it load. Is you can actually install all these tracking and events and tags without it going live, and you can actually test it on your site before it goes live. So users can still come to, why didn't that refresh? Can still come to your site and use it as normal as you're kind of working in the background. So. Watch the internet.
So I hate
Dies
to
on
do this,
the
but can you just give us like the most simple use case of why we're doing all this? Like, what's the thing that we're trying to do?
So think about so running Facebook ads.
Okay.
Ad costs are going higher, obviously. It's costing all of us more money for ourselves or our clients to basically reach the same amount of people. Depending on how you've had your tracking set up currently on your site, if you go into Facebook and you look at your data, and then you can compare that to Google Analytics, you'd be amazed at how many people will click an ad, go to your site, they don't let it load, and then they bounce off. So one thing we can do is we can basically delay the pixel, the Facebook pixel, from firing and say 5 seconds, and then you can create an audience out of that, and so that you know when you're running ads, they actually got there. Or that when you create a lookalike audience off of those people that stayed at least 5 seconds, you're getting a better quality lead because there's
for Google and YouTube as well.
yeah.
It's not just Facebook.
Yeah, it's not just Facebook. So yep. So all of this will apply to Google, Facebook, Pinterest, if you do Twitter, Udemy,
Okay, so
so
you have people coming to your site.
So have you done like the Facebook video views where you can segment your audience by like they watch 10%, 25%, 50%?
I'm familiar with it.
Okay. So the idea or the concept behind that is the longer they watch your video, the more qualified they are, because whatever you're saying or whatever you're trying to relate to them is really resonating with what they're doing, right? So if they watch 95% of your video, that's a very highly targeted traffic person. We can essentially do the same thing based on any action on our site. So if we have a longer site, we can do it by scroll depth. If we want to, one big thing that I found this useful for is with the upsells. So typically the way most people install their Facebook pixel when they're doing their funnels is they do a purchase event and they post it on their order confirmation page, which will track the purchase, but it's not tracking the upsells, it's tracking whatever you sold first. So if you're selling a $7 offer, it's tracking that purchase, but what if you have a $47 upsell and then a $97 upsell? You're not optimizing for those higher purchase prices, and it's not accounting for it properly within your analytics and Facebook backend. And so we can do all of that doing it this way. So then you can create audiences based off of people who just bought your $47 offer, and then you can run ads to them based on your $97 offer. You can run ads to them, and then that way you can really segment your audience.
Nothing's more annoying than going and buying 2 upsells and then getting emails like, hey, you want to buy my upsell? It's like,
Exactly.
you mean that thing that I've already got sitting right there?
Yeah.
But that's not Facebook audiences. that's fulfillment emails, right?
True.
Right, so
And
this
so
captures
True, but
all the data
you could
for that.
you could segment it out too. though.
Yeah.
If somebody bought the OTO, then you don't
That's
have
like when you're doing
that
the
active campaign.
right?
yeah, so like I have my active campaign in, the code that they give you an active campaign to put on your site. That's all managed in here too. So you can set up event tracking through active campaign if you want to do that. For instance, say that like on your sales page, most sales pages are like 1,500, 2,000 plus words, right? That's a pretty good scroll length. Say that towards the bottom, you are dropping some kind of bonus, and you could actually run ads because we can fire a tag based on scroll depth, that if they didn't get to 75% of your page, you know that they didn't see that bonus, that you could then run an ad to them and say, hey, we noticed that you left our site, you didn't see our amazing bonus. It's that type of thing. So you just more segment your audience and make it more personalized. On webinars, you can set timers. So not only can you track when they hit your page, but say you're dropping your offer at like 32 minutes, you can then put a tag that drops at 32 minutes. And then if that person is not tagged, you know they never saw your offer. So then your ad to remarket to them is, hey, we noticed that you didn't see what we had to offer, and you can do it that way too. Okay. So
I think as well, all the organization of all this stuff is made easier. Like, we're jumping through a bunch of hoops to get this set up initially, but if you build out a funnel and I'm trying to send people from Facebook, from Google, from YouTube, wherever, like just setting this up to put this onto your site. Otherwise, you'd have to put tons of code from all those different websites, and that does bog down how fast your site performs. So this helps clean up that process and make it faster.
So is this like replacing Google Analytics? Or
it's
is it
working
works
with it. Yeah. So I definitely
Dashboard, would you just kind of like tag manager dashboard to see what's going on, or
I pull up Google Analytics and I'll show you.
all my websites usually have zeros on them like that. That's great.
Swap to one, there was.
Right. Yeah, I'll show you. Like, we'll come to Google Analytics, and like you can see like through like events what's happening. But then, so you can see right now I'm hitting the site. So you can see scroll depth right here because I have a scroll depth. Now watch, as soon as so this is what shows up on Google Tag Manager. This means that whatever I do is not live. My site is still operating basically behind this, so that anybody can hit my site, and if I screw something up here, like it's not going to affect it, okay? And so this tells me everything that is firing on my page. So I have a pop-up trigger. Here's my Pinterest pixel, scroll depth, Google Analytics, Pinterest. Here's my terms of service stuff that I use a service for that, all of that. So you can see here, scroll depth has only fired once. As I scroll, there's twice. So I can go over here and I can see that this one scrolled to, right there. So now when I go to Google Analytics, once this updates,
Sure,
oh, there we go. It's like, why is it not updating yet? Thanks for noticing that, yeah. But you can see as you're scrolling, like you'll see this scroll depth right here. It's going to fire again and again.
Reno builds funnels for hire.
So you can see I've had it fire 5 times based on how deep within my page they're going. Okay. One idea I had with doing like tagging based on like timers in certain pages, like think about like memberships. Say somebody visits like 2 modules, but they never hit the 3rd module. You could tag them based on those pages that they're hitting and those videos they're watching. And then say they don't hit the 3rd module, this is a way that you could then run an email through ActiveCampaign or through an ad and say, hey, we noticed that you didn't hit your 3rd module. It's just the other way. Like, there's a bunch of ways you can apply this. It's just kind of however works best for you type of stuff. Let's see if this popped up.
So do you define how deep the page is?
Yep, and I'll show you how to do all of
You're
that.
just going off of session insertion, whatever it is.
Yeah, so now you can see Google Analytics tracked all those percentages. So essentially think like you start seeing numbers of how many people only hit 10%. So then you can kind of go to your page and be like, why are people falling off my page at 10%? Like something isn't resonating here because they're bouncing. So it just gives you an idea of like, okay, I need to change this copy. I need to bring maybe a better point higher up on the page to make them scroll further. So it just starts giving more information to what's really happening. Okay. Okay. So I'll walk through a couple of these, and then we can kind of, if you guys have ideas to see of like certain ones you want to do, like I'll build them with you so that I'll give you some ideas of like theories and just kind of the strategy behind it, and then we'll actually walk through some of them. Okay, so I'll show you the Facebook pixel. So essentially you're going to click new.
This is on tags.
Yeah, so this is on tags, so make sure your tag's over here. And then for you guys, you'll click up in the corner, it says new.
Mine says untitled tag.
That's where you're going to name it. So I'm going to copy this so I can walk you guys through it exactly. Okay, so new. And then up here, you'll name it. So Facebook, and then I think I put base pixel. Okay. And so then tag configuration is, because Facebook and Google are obviously competitors, there's not an option over here that says Facebook. Yeah, like there's one for Twitter, there's one for oops, that's not the one. There's one for like Pinterest, there's Quora, so there's a bunch of like different things over here that there's Twitter that you can go through. But for Facebook, yep, just custom HTML. And then this is where you paste your base pixel right there. Okay. Now the one thing you need to do is right here, where your pixel ID is delete it. And then you do curly bracket, and this brings up all of those variables that we created. Okay. So then all I'm looking for is my Facebook pixel. So now, if you ever need to use this code again, if you're sharing this to a client account, like you want to copy this as a template and create this for a client, this will already be in here, and all you have to do is change that one variable, which is your Facebook pixel ID. Okay?
It's on that like line 11, right?
Yes, line 11.
Okay, how do I get my Facebook pixel code?
So if you go to over to Facebook, so you're in your ads manager.
Is it that number in the parentheses, or is it?
What's that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So then you go to setup, so install pixel, right? And then manually add pixel code.
Yours is different because
Yeah, because Facebook sucks up.
yeah.
And then you just copy that right there, okay? And then you come to Facebook, or to Tag Manager, and you paste it. And then you got, I don't know if many of you know this, you can actually get rid of the no script, because this is obviously a script thing, so we don't actually use the no script. So you can delete it,
Yeah.
and then right here, this is my pixel, or this is my ad ID, my ad account. So that's what I change and put my pixel ID right there. Okay. And then,
Facebook pixel ID
because that's what I named it over when we were over here in variables.
So it knows where to pull
Yeah.
from.
So that's why I say use the naming convention that works for you, just so that you know.
Sleep for agency stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And then under,
Ben, you got a question?
I'm still trying to find my.
my Facebook.
if you,
Oh, it's alright. I'll
Speak
do
up,
it.
dude. It's a workshop.
yeah, you're good. Still got like 2 hours, so you're
Okay,
fine.
so here I am. Where do I need to be? You see.
So,
Seriously, I'll go
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Set up.
I'll
And then
change
set up,
your face
and
in
then
2 days.
install right
Also,
there.
I look like a little crap to talk about.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
change it all.
Like I said,
and so then it's the I think it's the middle one, but it's set up manually. So that you just select that, and then it'll show you this right here.
I know.
It's gonna change the next day, like the next hour.
Here's your,
Yeah.
here's your
Um,
checklist.
yeah.
Find your thing. Find this.
Um,
Find that. Wherever.
Okay. So then,
That's right.
yeah. So then you're going to scroll down and you go to Advanced Settings. And then what you want to do is change this to once per page on this firing options. The reason that we want to do it once per page is because later on when we set timers, if you forget to limit the number that the timers can go off, so say like you set your,
Probably be inflating your stats, right?
yeah, so this limits it to your base pixels only going to fire at once so that you're not going to have conflicting information and tracking.
Do I hit save tag or add trigger?
It'll be,
No trigger stuff.
yep, no trigger right now.
So just save it.
Mhm.
So save tag.
So tell me again real quick.
I'll show you in a minute.
Why that whole no script thing? Why we, what that means and why we should delete it or couldn't delete it.
So basically the no script is for websites that basically aren't going to load any like JavaScript or anything. There are very few of them out there. You can use that later on for like certain image tags, but the person that trained me on how to do Facebook ads always got rid of it. He's like this super genius, and he basically told me to never use that because it could cause problems if you get into some advanced tracking
What
stuff.
was that?
Good enough for me.
Do you know Joseph Mazukin? I can never pronounce his last name.
Wait, what did he say never to use?
So when you copy this,
There's a
the
no
pic-
script
Yeah,
tag.
no script at the bottom.
so there's a right here, this no script.
Like, we actually need the pixel dimensions too.
I'll just delete it.
Yep, just delete it,
Good
and
idea.
then this is just for
That's
you.
the two curly brackets.
Yep. And then on advanced settings, you just go once per page.
That's
Okay. Then
I don't have the
I'm
settings. Oh, maybe I need to get back.
Can you go back there one more time? I'm sorry, the curly.
yeah, so right here it should be line 11. You should have like, oh, that's not. You should have a bunch of numbers that look like this. And then just curly bracket, curly bracket. Make sure that you still have the like apostrophe or whatever they comment that as. Okay.
Single quote.
And then right here,
Single
It's
quote.
good.
what's that?
Single quote.
Yeah, single quote. I was like, I know it's called something.
You have to
Um,
be a programmer to know that.
yeah. And then advanced settings, and then once per page.
That is a single quote.
Okay. And then down here on triggering, you won't have any of these because we haven't set those up yet, but it's going to be all pages. And then then you're just going to save it. Okay. Okay. Now you got through one. Now, basically to save this and test it, you can either hit preview or you can hit right here at refresh, and you'll see it says saving. Loading. So now it's essentially saying I can go test this on my site and make sure it's active. So what you do is you go to your site, so whatever domain you put in your, just the domain. So obviously this is the one I'm testing. So Social Beauty is the one I'm testing. As it loads, you should see this down here pop up if you installed this in your head and body correctly. And then you should see the Facebook pixel, custom HTML, fired one time.
And that shows up because you're in the ad account?
Because I'm in Tag Manager.
Tag manager.
Okay.
I was like, I want that on my website when everyone visits.
Nope, nobody else would see this. So
But because
you can,
you're logged in, it
yeah.
shows up.
So see if I go to an incognito and go to Social Beauty,
What if you're already in incognito? Should
Then
it
you-
work then?
you probably won't
If you're
see
logging
it.
at both of them at the same time, that probably works.
See, so like as I'm in incognito, like you won't see any of it.
Back on the advanced settings underneath this Facebook pixel.
Yeah.
I missed that part.
Scroll down to instead of once per,
Event.
yeah, it's once per page.
That's it.
And then save, and then go to triggering, make sure it's all
It
pages.
says no trigger selected.
So-
Save tag.
So click
Or add trigger.
add trigger,
Add trigger.
and then all pages,
Also,
and then save. And so now you can see, so with pixel fired here, if I go to like this page, let this load,
oh my gosh.
and you can see that my pixel fired there. Okay, so it's working on all pages, and that's the only code. And
There are
now,
no tags in the container. It says in mine.
where we're at? Let me see.
I don't see it either. Like I said, I'm just surprised that thing showed up.
Like your computer. I think it was like right at the edge.
I know, right?
It's a Dell Inspire. I don't know.
Dell something or other.
Here's backwards. I scroll up.
Oh yeah.
It's like, why isn't
Oh,
that
natural
going?
scrolling.
Natural.
You're wanting to do
It's more like a pan. Is what ours is.
Yeah. Let's make sure you got this set up.
That's like AutoCAD days.
Push my fingers up the page, scroll up, and I pull them down to come down.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
I don't know.
I think it was like a piece of paper. It's like
I have a scroll wheel, so if I scroll down, it goes down.
to me, it's more like a pan than a scroll. Because I think of scrolling as in like a mouse scroll.
Yeah, that's how I do it too.
Scroll.
Yeah, it is.
Thing
It's
down.
backwards. You do up and it comes down.
They should call pan, not scroll.
I didn't even realize that I do that. Like, because I have my Mac at home. And just,
I like
yeah.
it too.
I didn't realize.
Or the 3-finger one.
Yeah.
That is yours.
So we go to okay. So on top of the
Yeah, it
page,
was all weird
scroll
when I
down,
first got
drag
it.
my fingers down, push my fingers back up. Yeah, that's funny.
I used to be all
It goes the
pieces.
direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're
Unless
changing
it's different.
when you're changing the settings, it says
Yeah.
like natural or
Yeah, you have to
I
unclick.
want the
Yeah,
unnatural
you have to
scroll.
unclick it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have my PC on my desk,
Yeah.
and then I put this on my desk. It's like flip a switch, and it flips all my monitors over. So
That's nice.
the sad thing is, I figured out how to do sidecar now with my iPad. So I put this down, I put my iPad there. Now all of a sudden,
Oh
I've
yeah.
got
Is that
Five
Catalina?
screens.
Yeah.
It's Catalina? I haven't taken that yet.
There we go.
What was it?
So under,
Just kidding.
no, it was fine. So under triggers, there was no page view. So if you just go to
Triggers.
so trigger configuration, you just hit page view, all page views. So you didn't essentially have a trigger that Google was, or that Tag Manager was using. See, now I'm scrolling backwards on here. Yeah, but now it works, so it pulled up, so you're good.
So I installed mine on WordPress,
Okay.
but I have a header footer plugin, and it's not going to work because you see it.
You need
Yeah.
Body.
So you'll have to go
some
to,
style sheets.
yeah, you'll have to go to the theme and editor and style sheets, and then there should be a place where you can edit the code, and you can just put that,
WordPress?
Yeah.
you know,
Could I
that code
put
there.
the header in the header
This
piece
is
and then do the body in that style sheet spot?
This is pretty.
Yes, so there should be like you should see like a theme.header, a theme.template or body, and that's where you're going to look for those style sheets that are named that, and that's where you're going to paste that code.
Yeah.
It's in there.
There's other things that
Okay.
really your brains.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I definitely got to know WordPress pretty
Okay,
inside
so
and
now,
out.
so like I said, you either hit preview or refresh, and then it saves it, and that's essentially where then you can go to your site, and then you can see what is actually firing, okay? So the next one we're going to set up is Google Analytics. So up here, you're going to click New.
Okay, well, hold on. We were
So
at
that was under
tags.
tags.
Yes,
Tags.
sorry, under tags.
Okay.
So most everything we do right at the moment will be in tags.
Can you remind me one more time what the difference is between tags and triggers?
Okay, so trigger is the
create tags.
Yep. So the triggers are what is actually happening on your page,
Okay.
the action.
And then you
When someone's clicking
And-
on the Facebook ad.
Yep. And then I don't like the way they say tags. Like I think it should be platforms, but think of tags as the platform that you're going to report that trigger to.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
shoot a bad guy. You gotta pull the trigger through the platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is your AR.
So
Yeah.
a tag is like your attribution.
I like that.
Essentially, yeah. Yep.
So it's like a sticky note, like Facebook. Google,
Yeah, so if you look
whatever.
If you look at triggers, like I have all pages, I have a click, I have a pop-up, scroll down timer. Like that has nothing to do with Facebook,
Yeah,
Google,
that's
and it.
platform
it's-
agnostic. Right?
Exactly. Tags are going to be dependent on whatever platform that you want to report that trigger to.
Okay, so that makes sense.
So we'll do Google Analytics. So you'll click New, and then you'll name it. So again, put it in the folder if you want. Tag configuration. This one is where it makes it easy. You click this very first one, Google Analytics, Universal Analytics. And then this first one is kind of our base. So this is just a page view. Like I'm literally just, I want to track everybody that comes to the website. So page view. And then this is where when we set up that variable, so then you just click that. So now if you get a new analytics ID, all you have to do is go to that variable, change it, and now it's updated through everything else that we use. Okay.
I haven't gotten a new ID since Urchin.
Come to the surface.
And then again is once per page on advanced.
Oh, advanced one.
I just wanted to leave.
You can if you want. And then triggering,
It's good social proof, right?
again, is right here, just all pages.
Which one?
That's okay.
Mine has two as well.
It-
Just pick one of them.
Yeah, either one. I know I created two of them, but
No exception.
Probably
Nice.
delete
So if
this.
I refresh and go to preview, I'm gonna have another thingy.
yep, you should. So if you guys, I'm deleting my extra one, so don't worry about this at the moment. Okay, so then you preview or refresh, and then when you go here and you refresh your page, Huh? I had it twice, so I just took one of them off. Yep, so you can see right here, it's showing. And then if I go to contact us,
All I gotta know is figure out how people would get to the website.
so they're right there, right?
Sorry. Last
Okay.
up.
Slow internet. Okay, so again, if you're doing, I'll leave those two there, but if you're doing Pinterest, Twitter, they all have some type of code. It's essentially the same thing. So like for this Pinterest one, it's custom HTML, which is what we just did for Facebook. And then you paste the script, and then here you can see, here's my Pinterest tag ID, and then it's all pages, save. Okay. And so then when you're out here, you can see like here's my Pinterest pixel. It's firing right here. It's on every page.
What does PA stand for?
Pinterest ads.
Pinterest ads. Okay.
Yeah. So Pinterest is a little bit different than like Facebook. They have your base pixel, but then they have a tag that you have to fire for the view. So you have to fire the base pixel plus the view to get like a page. It's weird, but that's what that is. So if you're doing active campaign, and this is essentially like if you're doing Udemy, if you're doing ClickMagick, if you're doing active campaign, if you're doing any type of conversion tracking from any other platform service like email, Proofly, any of those types of things, and you need to install code on your website, this is essentially how you do it. So you would go up to new. Most of them are going to be custom HTML, just like Facebook, and then you paste your code here, and then all pages. You can see here, this one I didn't put the variable in there because I only have the one active campaign and I run everything through one. But if I were using multiples, I would change that to a variable. So again, that's just my
How do
certain
you
case.
limit it through one?
You go into the like DNS settings and you can change like which emails it's sent from in there within ActiveCampaign. So you can send it from like multiple different email addresses all within one
Just
account.
pick which one in each automation.
Yep.
And where do we get this code from?
In ActiveCampaign, it's under
Go to settings at the bottom left.
Is this like the site tracking? Is that what I'm thinking? Is
Yeah,
this-
so
Yeah.
settings and then tracking.
so
And
bottom
what
left.
do people usually
admin.
do with the site tracking anyways?
So this is if you are going to ActiveCampaign does. I don't really use ActiveCampaign for all of my tracking. I do it more in this, but you can.
You could track the conversions.
Yeah, you
Like,
can
if you're
track
sending
conversion.
emails
And,
where people are going to click through and buy.
Yep.
You could literally like find out what your
Mhm.
ROI.
And now that ActiveCampaign is coming out with their conversations bubble that they have, that would
That's like
directly.
a pop of like a podium or whatever.
Yeah. So basically, like a support chat or live chat, you would have to have that in there as well. So if you have live chat, you can install it this exact same way and literally put it on every page as well. Doing this way, so you're not loading a bunch of code on your server or on your host. You can do it right here. Yeah. So this is faster.
Go to settings.
And then it should be
There should be
tracking.
tracking. It's
And then you have to turn
almost
tracking.
above the bottom.
Yeah, I think you have to turn tracking on. Right? Up here somewhere. Yeah, site tracking. Yep. And so then this is the ActiveCampaign code. Again, once per page, and then triggers all pages.
Did you make another folder for that too?
I just put that in my all
Oh,
pages
okay.
folder.
It's not one you'll really frequent like the others.
Yeah.
So if we put this code in a funnel, would it, like you had on your website where it kind of shows you what's going on,
Mhm.
would the same thing happen?
Mhm.
If we did it right?
Yep.
Sorry, did you do anything under advanced? Just one per page again?
Yeah, once per page.
Okay. Is there any time you don't do once per page?
There can be, but this is like the base
Oh,
of
yeah,
everything.
that's
So if
right,
you do,
okay.
once we get into like
Special
more,
stuff, like
more-
your scroll
yep,
down.
Oh,
and then
I guess we
triggering
could-
is
I guess
all
we could
pages.
add more.
So
So
what was variables again? It was just defining the actions that are taking place on it, right?
So variables is like your actual like ID number that could change if you got a new account, essentially. So like if I got a new Facebook ad account,
Right.
then that is really the only number that changes.
So
'Cause
that,
all of the
that's
other-
where you go in and put everything in for those variables.
Yep. So that's where you go into variables and set that up as whatever
So
Facebook
can I
pixel.
do multiple, like what you're saying?
Yeah. So I'm going to show you how you can essentially do 2 Facebook ad accounts on one, and it makes it super
Maybe you
simple.
can just pick just the one. The whole
Okay.
only this
So are we
page.
good there?
That's how it works.
Okay. So one thing that I do for some of my accounts or businesses is I'll put 2 Facebook pixels on the page because I know it's kind of a riskier product or service or business that Facebook could shut one down, but I don't ever want to lose all that data
Yeah.
that I've
What kind of
gathered,
stuff you sell?
like CBD oils and stuff. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I run dental ads and they think I'm recruiting, so
Or survival niche, like
yeah.
I did e-commerce survival products for a while, and like gun magnets and holsters were always like risky, and it was iffy that you could get your account shut down.
You said you have
Yeah.
problems with dental, or you don't?
Oh, I've just in the past they
They think it's recruiting.
flag it as like, oh, you're recruiting, you should
Recruiting what
like college recruiting or job recruiting, hiring. I was like,
Yeah.
can you read?
So
Can you read that?
so essentially, if I wanted to
So
put
no, they don't actually
Yeah,
agree.
I know.
Because I got my account, like this.
I have to push
got
that
shut
3 or
down
4
last
times before we actually get a human looking at it.
So if I wanted to put 2 Facebook pixels on a page, you definitely can do that. So right here, I just went to tags, new. I'm going to say Facebook pixel 2 just to make it easy. And then custom HTML. and then here. And then I'm going to leave that for a minute because I need to update that and change that
Oh, it's not plugged in.
because I didn't grab the ID yet. So then once per page, and then triggering is on all pages. So
Do
I'm
you do
going
that
to
on all
save
your sites?
Oops.
Or is it just the
Just some of them, yeah. So then, let's say I want to find.
There, I'm actually I made
are they still allow ISIS on there?
Huh?
Or if they stop that? Twitter used to have like no filtering, like ISIS had a channel on Twitter.
Well, Twitter, they just came out. Well, it was updated 10 minutes ago. It says Twitter bans political ads ahead of 2020 election.
I'm gonna post a link to an 8.5-hour course on
Just the
YouTube
easy way for them to.
about this stuff. It looks like it covers some of the same stuff. Nice. So let me put that in the file.
Learn a little bit, I see Reno's course on there.
Just in case.
997.
We'll follow over talking about that.
Yep. Okay, so right now I'm letting this load to get my second pixel ID.
There's actually a really good guy at the end. I'll do the graphic thing for this. Whatever. There's a really good YouTube channel that he mentions following like those pretty deep into all this.
Sorry, in variables you're doing same for the SE of the base
Yep.
What was it? Sorry.
For
The base
just under
under variables.
constant, right? Is that what you're?
It's called Measure School. It's on YouTube. All the word measure. It's
Oh, yeah.
you see, his
Yeah.
stuff's really good.
Yeah.
And he's super analytical numbers.
A lot of
It's the whole thing with his stuff.
a lot of what I've learned is off of yeah, and then the agency that I worked for just a little bit. I learned a lot from them too. Launch Titans. So I was recruited from them a couple of months ago. Our clients were like Eric Worre, Anthony DiClemente, Frank Kern at some point, some pretty big companies and organizations. So a lot of this stuff I had to learn to build out for them. Okay, so I have my Facebook Pixel 2 is my variable that I just created with essentially my second pixel, Facebook Pixel, and then Facebook Pixel 2. So I'm just going to update this so that it Facebook Pixel 2,
This up, dude.
and that's it.
It's not to
Save.
not to take away from anything that Reno has done tonight.
No, go for it. Yeah. And now,
Don't pay $200 for it either. Like, go into an incognito window. Make sure you get it for like $15 or less.
so
No
see,
more.
now you can see I have my first pixel and then I have my second pixel. They're both firing. Everything's working. If you go up here to Facebook, oh, I probably should tell you the 3 extensions I use that help. So you have Facebook Pixel Helper, then you have Google Tag Assistant,
Had that from years ago when I tried this crap.
and then if you're doing Pinterest, then Pinterest is here so you can see like my Pinterest stuff is working just fine. But if you look at the Pixel Helper, here's this pixel with that ad ID. Here's this pixel with that ad ID. Both are recording that it was a page view. So this is a super easy way that now as you do your events for Pixel 1, you essentially just do the exact same thing, but then you just do that Facebook Pixel 2 variable, and it now does it for your second pixel as well. So now you can essentially build both ad accounts at the same time, and it's much faster than having to go on Facebook. Just I put both pixel codes in here. So
say you're running the Facebook ads from one account.
yes, I just run it from one account.
In the second account, you don't put the ad.
I-
Both getting the data.
both are getting the data. I'm not creating the ads in both. So I'm
Yours
running the
are
ads
Just
from
shut down.
Yeah.
exactly.
How much ad spend before you can get decent data?
Depends on.
Like before you're actually using the season of the pixel.
It depends on the industry that you're in, the traffic that
I
you're.
don't season pixels anymore. I used to, but I just run directly to conversions for my stuff. It seems pretty good.
Yeah,
My pixel plugin is grayed out. It says no pixels found.
And you probably don't have it installed.
Yeah, you know, installed it.
Oh, that's right. I didn't do
So you'd have to do the base pixel code.
Sorry, the
Okay,
pixel
I have
has a year about it, but
I have it on ads so that
I don't see mine showing on here at all.
um,
I think I,
yeah. Where's your going to click
Yeah,
those
so-
and make sure it's in the.
What Jerem's talking about though, as far as like non-seasoning, he probably has his tracking down.
Did
really
you?
well,
So is
he
this
can find
this
it
is on
really
ClickFunnels?
quick.
Yeah.
But if you're
So go
if
into
you're
where you
starting out,
can.
you'll probably want
Did you
to
put it here in the
season
settings?
so that
Your
you're
Google tag.
start tweaking
Make sure it's in the
changes
head and the body.
unless you know your demographics and everything.
oh, you know what? I didn't do it on that phone. Let's see. You have that extension?
Which one?
ClickFunnels Pro extension.
It's
It's old, so that's why it goes into ClickFunnels.
version 1.
1.0 was, but
It just automatically goes right into it. Actually, builder.
yeah.
Nice. Right at that.
That brings back memories.
Is that your score? That V2? Is that how you switch?
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. I guess I'm gonna get it.
Yeah, it needs to be in the actual.
Oh, underscore
the whole
PT is
funnel.
the new version.
So okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I didn't do it on this funnel.
Yeah, so you'll just have to paste that tag manager code up the head and the body there, and then it'll do it.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, I figured that.
So those are essentially that's my base. Okay. So what I do at this point is I hit submit, and what this is doing is saving basically this version. Okay. So once I have my base set up, I will name this base. So if I ever screw anything up, I can essentially like revert back to this. It's like a built-in backup. Okay. And so all you're going to do is you hit publish, then you name it. Again, any naming convention, just so you know what it is. Like you could put, you know.
Should I do that now?
Yes. So Facebook and Google Analytics and Pinterest. I mean, you can name it however you want. So whatever that base or that template looks like for you, that's what you want to name it. Okay. Now that we have that done, that's kind of our overall tracking for all the platforms that we're using and the systems that we're using. Now we can start getting into specific triggers based on pop-ups, scroll depth, and we'll go into building any others out that you want, you know, for like leads and form fills and that kind of thing. So do you guys care which one we start with, or?
How about a button click?
Okay.
Unless anybody else wants to override that.
We're good? Okay. So go to new.
Where do we go?
And tags.
Yep, so in tags. So you can essentially build this two ways. You can build your trigger first, which is the button click, and then you can build the tag, like where you want to report that button click to, or you can just kind of do it in like a straight line where, so I'm going to do button. That's not how to build that. Button click.
Okay, what's that? I can make a new tag.
Yep, so I just went tag. So you can see here, I can build the tag and then I can build the trigger. So there's kind of two ways that you can put this together.
Button click. Nice.
And this is just what I'm naming it. You obviously name it what you want. So tag configuration, where do we want to report this to?
Facebook.
Do Facebook. And what kind of event do you want to track that as? Do you want to track it like as a lead, as a... Anybody?
Lead.
Lead? Okay.
First one, just click the button, then, right?
Or custom event.
We can do a custom event or...
Have you done anything with button clicks in your stuff?
Mhm.
I've known the capabilities there. I've just never
Yeah, so if we go to,
sort of the use case scenario.
this is it. Let me make sure I'm back to my right ad account so that we're going to the, where's,
So all those that you were scrolling through are like your different clients.
mhm.
Yeah, they're all different.
So it's like an agency model.
Yeah. So
Am I set up for that right now too?
I have a couple of different business managers,
you
and
just have-
within,
Yeah, you basically just add them. Yeah.
After having an entire one shut down,
what's that?
after having one shut down, I had 22 pages attached to it.
Jeez.
I got it back, but yeah,
That's an idea.
I've since I do one-to-one now. One business manager to one ad account to one client now.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah, that's how I do all
And
of
like,
them.
It makes it so much
it
easier.
froze up.
What do you do? So you make brand new
In
Facebook business manager accounts per client?
Well, once they're past the trial and they're on contract, when we'll do that.
So
Like for all of mine. So like, so with two of our businesses, there's essentially two sides to the same business. So like with our microblading, we have clients that my wife does microblading on, and then we teach microblading. And you have to think like the market for both of those is different. So I have an ad account for our clients, and I have an ad account for our students because they're completely different.
And so I saw that you were scrolling through a lot of different things.
Those are all different ad
Each one of
accounts
those
for
is-
each type of business.
So this is
essentially.
all kind of together.
Each type of business or each?
Each basically market that I'm going for. So like,
So if you're selling knives in one and you're selling cats in another, you're probably not going to cross. Or
if it's under the same
Some-
brand,
yeah.
essentially
Then
I
maybe,
do it
yes.
by brand. So like
Yeah.
our client business is called Pace Studios, but our teaching business is called the Academy of Rouse. So both are separate and they both have their own ad account. But if I was like an e-commerce brand and I sold, furniture, I wouldn't create a new ad account for like office furniture and for living room furniture. It's too similar. It would be one.
When you were scrolling on the left, each one of those is an ad account.
Yeah, those
Yes.
are all ad accounts.
Each one of those is an ad account.
And yeah, so this is
Could be yours, could be clients.
So this is one business manager. These are kind of like all of our personal stuff. And here's one that I run other clients through, and then here's another one that I run other clients through, which is clothing.
Make a ton of them.
And then you're just basically making yourself.
And so each one of those could get shut down. You're trying to spread
It's
the.
a whole business.
Yeah, it is.
That if one gets shut down, I can still run everything else, and I only have to basically troubleshoot or like restart one business, not all of them. So
Which sucks.
okay, so let's do. Oh, go back. So what did we say we wanted to track? Well, as a lead, or we could just do it as like view content too. That's fine.
Yeah, because you can get specific.
So essentially, all you're doing is you're pasting whatever you want to classify this as. So whatever that code is. So when you go to Facebook, there's a bunch of different codes, like depending on what you do. So like if you do education, there's purchases, there's search, content, lead.
It's just like different.
Yeah.
It's just like,
So we can do it as a lead too.
I mean, once I got into all that stuff, it's like, I know that.
Then
The initial-
essentially what you do here again is you want once per page, but you want to do a tag sequence on this because you want your base pixel to fire first, then your custom tracking what you're doing here. So you want to let's see, fire tag after. And so this is where I'm going to select my Facebook pixel right there. Okay, so I want my Facebook pixel to fire first, the base code. Then after that fires, as long as that is okay, then this button click tag can fire. Does that make sense?
Because the button click tag can't fire
Without-
on the base,
Exactly. Yep. And okay. And you guys don't need to do any of that. And then you don't need to do any of that. Okay. And so then essentially you are done setting up your tags. So then you're going to set the trigger. And now this is where you can get essentially customized. And this is where having your tracking plan in place of what you want to track is going to come in helpful, because you can track literally every click. So if I hit that, so this is all clicks on all elements. So if I save this and go to preview, and I go here and reload, okay, you'll see that this button click hasn't fired. Tag's not fired on this page. But if I click there,
specify what button. Just it's a keyboard button. Not.
well, that, and we'll get to that. But I'm just showing like you can literally set this up to like click on anything and it'll fire. Or when you go in here, like when you're setting up this,
So it's JavaScript.
yeah. So this is where on this trigger, we're going to go to this plus sign up over there. Okay. So these are the triggers we've already set that can be used essentially for anything. If we're creating a new one, you go to plus, and you're going to click there. And so then this is what your triggers are. These are the actions that people are taking on your pages that you can essentially track. Okay. So yeah, page views. I've never used these two.
So DOM is a document object model.
Yeah. I've never.
I don't even know what that is.
Document object what?
Document object model.
So if you're curious, you can see with your tag manager loaded here, you can see over here on the left side, so what elements are loaded on your page as this is going through.
Right.
So you can see right here on the DOM ready, these are the events that were fired at this point in your page load. Okay, so these are all the events not fired yet, but you can see as you go to window load, okay, they're not fired yet. And so then they start firing, if that makes sense.
So what does that mean, James?
It's like everything is nested,
Oh, okay.
right? Like you have there's an old HTML. You have your headers, and then you kind of get your paragraphs and your bodies, and so you can like kind of go down the tree,
Right.
and go back up the tree.
So it's, in a sense, it's almost like single page scroll, but scrolling it through the HTML actual.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying like has the page load, right? You can't have a timer until the thing's loaded.
Yep.
I think it's like one of those earlier things.
Yeah.
As soon as it
Yeah,
fires.
because there's at certain point through your page load is when certain things will
Right,
start.
a percentage of how far
DOM ready.
they're actually
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, because like he was saying, it's a hierarchy, so that like it loads your header first, all that stuff in there, which is why you put your Google tag code in there, and then it starts going down that tree. Okay.
DOM ready means that all the HTML has been received and parsed by the browser into the DOM tree, which can now be manipulated.
I haven't used these in setting up triggers, so
Split hairs, huh?
yeah,
Unless you super giant page, like Russell's pages, you know,
right.
Oh man.
40 videos.
If that's the key to success, is long
Yeah.
sales letters.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
So then you have all elements, which is literally like
Fall hacking live
words,
stream.
pictures,
I know.
words, pictures, backgrounds, all of that.
Get to the buy button yet, please.
You have just links, so you can do certain links that they click on. So say you have like a telephone, if you're doing a lead gen page and you have a telephone, when you create that link, it's
Yeah.
telephone number,
Right.
Yeah.
right? So you can set just links, and then right here, instead of all links, you hit some links. And so now this is, remember when we created all those variables?
Yeah.
Now we can select how we want to do that. So page URL contains, and this is where you would just put tell. Yep. And now every time somebody clicks that, that will then fire, and that's how you can then see it in Google Analytics that they're clicking on.
You tried to call me,
Yep.
but it didn't go through.
Exactly. And then you could run ads and retargeting stuff to all of that. Okay. So that's how you would
Did
do.
we go over how to zero in on a specific button yet?
I will show you in just a
So that
second.
doesn't really tell you who clicked on the button. It just told you that.
That somebody did, yeah.
Yep, it just tells you somebody did.
Then you
So the button would be, so there's a few ways you can do it. It's kind of however you want to build it, okay? So with a button, typically you're linking a button to a URL most of the time, or a pop-up. I'll show you how to do a pop-up in a second. But with that URL, this is kind of the easiest way to do it because you're not having to use any like CSS numbers or code or anything. You just find the link that button is linking to. And so then you just do some links, the page URL is there, and then you just contains or equals.
Except for you could have like 3 buttons that all go to the same URL.
Well,
Or
if you
separate
have that-
pages that go to it,
Yeah, so if you have that, then you would probably want to set up, which I'll show you in a
Like the
minute, like the
CSS
specific, by the CSS
Or the
ID.
button or something.
So if you're using this for like a website that had a call feature where they could just dial straight to you and call you,
This is the easiest way to
that's
do it.
the way to do it.
Just link to them.
If you are doing a, where is it? Like James was saying, so click classes or click element,
That's CSS based.
those are going to be your CSS codes. So in ClickFunnels, you go down to the hashtag. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go down to the hashtag, you find the CSS number, and so then the click element contains. And so see, you can see here matches CSS selector, or if you want to do a negative version, does not match. Okay. And then you would just paste your whatever that is, like like the random code that they
That's
do
what
there.
you get just with that inspect element.
You can do it through the you can do it through the inspect element, or if you're in your page.
Oh yeah, I guess at the bottom.
So I'll show you where you guys would find that CSS. So if you're in any of your pages, internet is slow. So right here, and then you go down to the CSS info, and then it's this right there.
Can you show that again?
Yeah.
So if you want to do it on a specific button, so within ClickFunnels, you go to the button, and then down over there on the left, the little hashtag, and then it's this right there.
The whole hashtag.
Yep, hashtag everything. So all of that, and that would be
Oh, that's James Smith does all this safe virtual stuff.
It's all
Associated with that.
so then some clicks. So then it would be right here, click ID. Oh, I didn't copy that code. Copy.
So by some clicks they mean like specific, right? Not just all.
Yep.
Is
So
that how they're tracking like in their footers? If they like click on this to buy this button, they track it like that.
yeah, you can use all of this for that. Yep.
So no, here's the weird question: how do you retarget somebody on that?
So the way that you would do it is up here.
Oh, because it's firing on. Okay.
Yep, because it's firing this. This is sending to Facebook,
Right.
and so then in Facebook you create that custom.
Oh, okay.
Yep, you create that, and then that's where you just target that conversion. And so
I
now you,
forgot that we put that in
Then
Yep.
click the
Like,
button on the
it's
separate
super
button.
Yeah,
Yep.
makes sense. Cool.
so then if you're doing like a pop-up, so you can see here when I reload this one. So you can see right here that this pop-up one hasn't been fired, hasn't been triggered. So if I do this, I don't think, oh it is, nope, not that one. So you can see right there, the click fired, right? Because this was just set to anywhere, okay? But that wasn't the pop-up I was tracking on this one, but this one, now as that pop-up loads, that fired. So that pop-up is what I was specifically tracking. So if you have, different pop-ups coming in for different offers on exit intent, you can set those. When that views, then you can start seeing like, okay, how many people are like trying to leave my page before they're seeing something. So now you can create an audience off of that.
Did you build this in ClickFunnels?
No, that's on a different.
Oh.
on a different builder.
Freak are you getting like these
Click
features?
off.
Yeah. So I'm reporting that that pop-up to Google Analytics, right? So you can see out here. You can see right here, I'm reporting it to Google Analytics. Okay. And so when you set up a Google Analytics one, you would just click new, a new trigger, or new tag, sorry. And then you're going to select your Google Analytics, and then it's an event. So essentially everything that you're tracking on GA is an event because it's an action, right? I can actually name these whatever you want. So this could be, yeah, so category is like pop-up, action is clicked, whatever naming convention works for you, right? You don't have to even name these two if you want. And then again, here is my Google Analytics ID right there, okay? And advanced settings, once per page. Okay. And so now,
Sorry, but I'll ask you.
okay, so now here is my pop-up, right, that I created. So it's an element, I did it this way just to show you there's different ways that you can do like button clicks. So the first one we showed you was with the button click to the URL, then the button click based off the CSS selector. Yep. I did this element visibility as a way, say that you have a timer on your page and after 20 minutes, it then opens like the buy button, right? So element visibility, as soon as that becomes visible, that's another way that you can track something and say, hey, they saw my buy button, they saw my offer, they saw the checkout page. So I wanted to be able to show you that. So that's the trigger type that I selected. Again, it's just over here, element visibility. Okay, and I'm selecting it by the ID because it's CSS ID, right? So you could do selector, but because I'm on this builder and not ClickFunnels, it's just different. They do it by ID. But if you're on ClickFunnels, it's CSS selector, just FYI. Okay, and then this is the ID that pop-up has when it pops up that triggers it. If you're in ClickFunnels, it's CSS selector, and then you're just copying that CSS thing that I showed you on the hashtag. Yep. And then this is where you can do it like once per page, once per element, every time the element appears on the screen. So if you have stuff popping up numerous times and you want to track it every time, you can do that. So I showed you there. Minimum % visibility. Actually, don't even need that on there. So if it gets halfway loaded and like, nope, I'm gone, you know it's not going to track it because it didn't load all the way. So you can actually put this at 100 if you want to make sure that they see the pop-up, so you can track it that way. And obviously you can change this, but because it's a pop-up again, that's really the only thing I'm tracking. So it's just all visibility events, okay? And then you save it, and so then that's what, when that pop-up triggers, that's when that tag fires, okay? And so then this is reported to,
Man, you could really mess with some. I'm just thinking.
Oh,
like,
you did, yeah.
I kind of want to go home to my wife. Hey, go look at this page real quick. Just follow around everything.
So it's a bunch of slide broadcasts.
So you can see here that my scroll depth was accounted for, the pop-up was accounted for. So now I'm seeing all of this in Google Analytics to see like what is happening. Okay, so my pop-up was accounted for. This is real time.
So is this what they're using at the site saying there's so many people on this site right now or whatever? Is that what they're using, or are they just randomly picking numbers out of that air?
Depends how they have it set up. Like Blake Newbar set up his like funnel formula, and in the right you saw a code that counted like how many people are live on the site. That was totally fake. Like I have the code for that you can just put up there. And you can set the numbers to make it look like there's actually people on the site even though there's not. If you want to like have true numbers, it is just another code like JavaScript that you put on there that you could tie it to this, and so then it would pull it. But
You got lots of traffic
Yeah, but if you don't, I was like, that's the risk you run. Is like
Make it 4 people.
1 a.m. There's like nobody, and it's like 0 people.
And
You're
write a
like,
script
but I'm on the
that's
site.
like,
Yeah.
start with minimum like 49 people, and if people actually increase, then
Yeah, seriously.
you don't
Yeah.
you can write a code snippet to do that.
Oh yeah,
So that
Yeah.
code you have, is that available for sale?
maybe.
Maybe.
Um, So that's one version that you can do. Is set it on like element visibility. So if you have certain things dropping at like certain times, you can do it that way. Another one is scroll depth. So this is where you can set how far that they go within your page. So again, I'm reporting this to Google Analytics, but I could do this to Facebook, and I just need to do like a custom name, however you want to account for that within Facebook. But again, you just set scroll depth. So category is scroll depth. And then here, this scroll depth variable is the one we selected when we turned the variables on previously, right? When we were over here in variables. Okay, so we want this to be dynamic as they scroll, right? So put that there. And honestly, you don't even need these last two if you don't want. It's really only the top two that are the category and the action that are most useful. And then your Google Analytics ID. And again, once per page. And then your trigger. So this is where you set the percentage of your page. Okay.
So you can fix that.
Yep. So again, this is typically your trigger will be blank. So then you come to choose your trigger type. So you go down here, scroll depth, right? You can do horizontal scroll. So if you have something going sideways, you can scroll. Like if you have a carousel, yeah, you can see like which images. So if you want to track that, you could totally do it. You could do it by pixels, but I have never done it that way. People's computer screens are weird, so I just yeah. So I just like I feel like that would cause a lot more headaches than anything. And so then you just separate the percentages by a comma. So whatever percentage. If you just want like 50.
Oh, you chose those percentages.
Yep. Yeah. So this
Right in
will.
line with Facebook though.
Yep. So this will be blank. It'll look just like this. And then I just did what was in there just because it's suggested. I was like, well, that's kind of best practices. So yeah. And then I can't remember if you set this up. It should be on window load, but that's make sure any of your percentages are on window load. So, and then again, I have this one on all pages, but if you want to do just certain pages with like certain elements, you just enter all that in. Okay. Okay. So.
Could you do UTM parameters with Tag Manager?
Yes. That gets a little.
A little dicey.
Yeah, it gets a little bit more.
I guess it's more on the analytics side.
Yeah, but you definitely can. So, right. So then, let's do.
UTM parameters.
Oh no, I said it's like going down the rabbit hole at that point.
So then here's kind of the last like example I wanted to show you guys is the timer. So again, this is where this works really well for Facebook ads. So essentially you have your base pixel, it always fires, right? Then you can set a timer to fire a Facebook custom event, essentially creating another audience, but you know that these people have stayed on your site past 5 seconds. So when you're running your ads, you want to run it to this custom event or this custom audience that you created, not all the page views, right? Because now you're getting rid of any bots, anybody that's hit your page but bounced before it's loaded, so you're just getting a better quality lead or traffic, okay? So the timer, obviously you name it, I just timer 5 seconds, it's easy. This is going to be blank for you, but obviously you just click on timer or trigger and you come down here and you set timer, right? This should already be filled in. And then Google operates in milliseconds, so just make sure if you don't, like if you have something going for like 32 minutes, just go to Google and type like 32 minutes to milliseconds, and it's like,
It's like times 1,000.
yeah, so
It's
it's,
seconds times 1,000.
so
Yeah.
then make sure
So
that
you're
you,
30 minutes, you're 30 times 60 times
32,000.
yeah, so it's what, like
30 times
a
60
million and a half or something like that.
Just don't do it.
Yeah, so I just go to Google and do the conversion and copy and paste. Make sure there's no commas. So sometimes if you get that high, it'll be like 1,980,000 something. Like just take the comma out. So if you see that, it's because there's a comma in it. So it's just a string of numbers. Yep. And then make sure the limit. And again, this is where having like your tracking plan will come in handy. Put the limit to. Whatever you put this limit to is how many times this will fire. So if I put this at 10, every 5 seconds, this tag will fire up to 10 times. At 10 times, it stops. Okay. So again, depending on like what you're tracking, like why you're tracking that, you could change this.
So you could have it there and have it go out, 50 seconds.
Mhm.
If you have a 1 minute video, you're like, oh, they watched almost all of it.
Yeah. So essentially, instead of doing like scroll depth, you could do it as a timer and say, this is 5 seconds. So say what's like 3 minutes in milliseconds is what, like 36,000 or something like that.
180,000.
180,000.
3 minutes. Yeah.
3 minutes.
60 seconds times.
Okay.
Back to math.
So then essentially after 3 minutes, this tag would fire, right? But it's only going to fire once. Well, if I changed it to 3, that's essentially if somebody is tracked on the third fire, that means they've been on my site for 9 minutes. So that's kind of saying like, oh, you're really consuming all my content. So it's kind of a different way of doing the scroll depth. I like scroll depth better, but that's a way that you could do it.
There is a video option as well, though, right?
Yeah.
Video.
Yep.
Probably get more percent.
Yep. So we'll go into that.
Yeah, because if the page is loaded, you have no idea.
Yeah, if they actually click the
button,
video.
a play button.
Yeah.
Click.
Yep. And so then if you want to do this on every page, so you just do page path and then regular expression. This is kind of the shortcode or whatever for essentially every page, right? So if we save that, that is our timer. So if I wanted to set a tag up for that and say report it to, we'll do Facebook 5 seconds. So this is the custom code that you're essentially getting from here. So if I want to track it as a lead after 5 seconds, that's where I do. I put that there. If you want to do like a custom name, and then you can just say 5 seconds, right? So now you can create an audience that you know have been on your site for at least 5 seconds, right?
So where do you go to see that in Facebook?
I'll show you. So then we go to triggers and we select our timer that we set up, right? Okay, so we're going to save this. We're going to preview, save. Now if we go back to the site, so you can see here, where'd it go? I did something wrong. Let's see.
How did you get into all this?
A lot of it came from when I got hired on recruit to that marketing agency. I noticed how awful, like actually larger companies do at tracking all of their stuff, but they're still making a ton of money. Yeah, like they literally spent thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on stuff and didn't have knew that there was a return. They had a concept of like, well, we're making money, so like it must be working. Yeah. So I started like getting into it and learning it, and was like, there's got to be a better way to do all of this. And then started talking to Joseph, which is the guy that taught me a lot of the Facebook ad stuff, and Lazook, I can never say it, Lazookin. I'll look it up. He created a really cool Facebook service that will, Lazookin. He created a really cool Facebook software called Pixel Smarter that will do a lot of this for you, but it's not cheap. Yeah.
From Pixel Smarter?
Yeah.
Not cheap.
No.
Well, you didn't accept my friend request.
Let's see.
How do you spell his last name? Lazukin.
This looks Polish.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Oh, that's right, you started Poland, right?
I did.
Dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry.
Jak się masz?
How do you know that?
Oh, I taught a few Polish people in England.
That's cool.
Do widzenia. That's all I know.
Goodbye.
England was a
Yep.
melting pot. There was a little bit of tons of languages. But Polish people are interesting. You could have a crowd of hundreds of white people, and I can see who's Polish. Like, they
Right,
look
very
about
distinct,
them,
right?
like,
Yeah, kind of
weird.
weird.
And they make good sausage.
Yeah. It's a Polish sausage.
It's not Costco.
So, like, what's been your biggest practical application of this skill set, like, that you've actually used?
For like webinars, the timer, like being able to just essentially like see who's seen your offer, who's not seen your offer when you drop it.
Don't the webinar platforms kind of do that for you too?
Some do, some don't. I think Webinar Jam does, but I hate Webinar Jam because it never worked for me. So like I quit using it a long time ago. And so this is one way that you can essentially like record your video, upload it to your page. So it's not a live webinar, it's just a video playing, but then you can still track who's getting to your offer and whatnot. The first one would probably be tracking like your upsells and like being able to create audiences off of that. So
are you doing automated webinars then?
Yes. Yeah. I don't like webinars.
What webinar software do you use? Or
Just Zoom.
just Zoom.
Mhm.
You just,
And then if it's a video for like
Built out with quick levels, right?
most of the like the auto stuff is just a video that I've downloaded. I'm hosting on like Vimeo, and I just play the video and say, hey, here's the broadcast room, set a timer on like the waiting room, and then it forwards you to the
how does
broadcast room.
Zoom how does Zoom fit into that? I don't understand.
If you're doing a live webinar, I just use Zoom.
Oh, live. I
Yeah.
see.
But you just
But
recorded
if it's an
previous
auto
levels.
webinar, it's just a video.
Just a video. Yeah.
We're
That's
not
what-
making huge leaps to make it feel super real. You know, it's
Yeah,
not
and I don't put anything on there that's like
It's
saying
live.
like live, and I don't
Yeah.
put the chat on there. Like
Yeah,
I don't know, it just doesn't work for
Yeah,
me.
you don't
But
use the fake chat thing.
I don't do that.
I don't either. Yeah.
So for like video
No, this-
stuff,
that's for mixing.
so for like video stuff, here's like YouTube video. So if you are doing anything in the
Cool.
so like start, complete, pause, buffering, progress. If you have multiple videos, then obviously you can segment it out based on like which video they watch. Or if you only have one, then there's only one video on that page. So
Does that work for YouTube videos in general, or just when it's on your?
when
Yeah,
it's
it's been on your site.
when it's on your site,
Right.
yeah. So remember when we put like your domain.
Yep.
So it's anything that's on that domain.
Okay.
So if it's on a subdomain, that's different. Like it has to literally be on your domain. Yeah. Yep.
Especially in Google Analytics.
So these are triggers that you can set up.
So on the videos, on some videos, if you have videos, would you name them by the name of the video, or would you? Name
You
it
could
by
do
the
it
video,
by
or-
you could do it by video URL right there. So that would be the YouTube URL that you're embedding. You could do it by the click ID. So when you're in ClickFunnels, every time you put a video, just like a button, it's got its own individual CSS ID. Let's see if this loads. So like if I were to put so there's one video. So if you go to settings and then there, so you have that. So it'd be by this video. So that's 94930. Even if I copy this,
That's good.
it's going to have a different one. So see, video different. So that's how you would, then you could segment it by, okay, I want to make sure they're watching this video. If you have multiple videos on a page and you want them to either track like who's watched all of them, who's just watched this one, that's where you're just in here. And it's just the click ID. And so it contains, and then remember it's the hashtag, right? Because that's what you're, because it's a CSS, right? Let's see how else you could do it. You could do it by, it's like I think click ID and video URL would be the best way to go. You could do it by scroll depth. So if you have like a video at the very top and then one like at the very bottom, you know, then you can set this so that you could say at 10%, you know, if they've watched this video. I think that might get a little confusing, so I would stick with video URL or click
And
ID.
if you ever move the video up,
Then you have to,
you're like, oh,
yep.
now I gotta rechange.
Yeah, so I would just stick with that. And then I think that was it. Any questions?
I feel like you've opened up my brain to think
Yeah, I
about
mean,
lots of options.
I may not understand it, but now that I have the exposure
Yeah.
to go to be done.
Like essentially, I mean, you could, and I mean, I don't know every way that you could use all of these things, but there's so many ways that you could just apply it. So think like ClickFunnels, I mean, doesn't have a very good survey element. You could essentially create your own survey element in ClickFunnels by the like hide and show option. So yeah, so you could say like, are you male or female? And if they click on this button, it hides that one, but then it opens up another one. And you could track that based on clicks and tags because each button has an individual ID. And so now you're just gathering all that data. And so now when you send your retargeting ads, you can say, hey, if they clicked on the female button, we're going to send them this ad. If they clicked on the male button, we're going to send them this ad. So now you've just segmented your audience. You've created your own survey system inside ClickFunnels and don't have to pay for all the other stuff. And it's all just show hide. But yeah, like the duration and scroll depth are very helpful for any like webinars, any like video sales letters, like videos that you're doing. You know, making sure that people are watching all of your sales video. So upsells. So like when you go to your like upsell pages. So let's see here. Leave and not save that. So typically when people set up their Facebook pixel, they set up the purchase event on the next,
The trigger for
like on the
So
next
purchase
page.
on
Like
thank you.
if they purchased and they hit your thank you page, you're tracking that as a purchase, right?
Yeah.
So they'll put that on their order confirmation page, which is down here most of the time, but they're not tracking the upsell, or the declines, and then, you know, into your, so what you can do, again, this comes to like the button clicking. So when you're in here, So when you're in Google Tag Manager, you can set a trigger on the click, and you can set it to this page. So you're going to look at your URL. So you go to your preview. So obviously all of this is typically gone. So you're really just looking at this right here, right? So you'd grab that URL, and so you can say, I want to fire this tag, okay, because you're in here and you set a trigger, right, for a click on a specific page, which is this page, and only when, oh, I have PayPal set on this one, only when they say add to cart, right, because that's typically like add this upsell, add this one-time offer, add this whatever. So you can set it to the button to say the button text contains add this, and it'll track that conversion. Or the CSS selector. You can also set up another tag to then track which people say no, but then hit your downsell, right? So now you can see like how many people are taking your upsell, saying no to your upsell, but then they're hitting your downsell. And then you just do it again. How many people take your downsell and say no to your downsell? And then you can, within Facebook, you don't report your upsells as purchases, because then when you run your ads, Facebook doesn't say like, hey, this purchase is worth $1,000 to them.
Because it's like the third purchase in, right?
Yeah. So then when you're running your ads, Facebook is giving you an audience that will convert at $47 rather than $9.97. So you're not spending X amount of money, because Facebook knows if you're like, hey, I want to optimize for this conversion at $1,000, like they know you have a lot of money to spend to hit $1,000 conversion, right? But if you say I want to optimize for a $47 conversion, they're like, we got to get some really good traffic, because if he's spending more than $47, he's not going to keep buying, right? So then you just send this to Facebook not as a purchase event, but as a custom event, and that's how you can create an audience off of that. So now you've improved your CPMs because you're not spending as much money reaching just as many, if not more people. So yeah.
This is why agencies are so profitable.
Right.
If they set this up, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and so as you saw kind of earlier as we were going through like analytics, like you're seeing like all of this was tracked in scroll depth, button clicks, pop-ups. So you start seeing all of that.
So you said when you're actually doing the tracking, you're looking at your analytics to find out.
Yep.
So after you set this up, Google Tag Manager probably isn't the place you frequent too often, right? It's kind of,
Yeah, once it's done, it's
and you're going to
More set it
the
for
end
good.
Yeah.
tag thing like Google Analytics or
Yep.
Facebook or whatever. Actually.
Yeah,
Does
once
it
you
show us where you go in Facebook to
Oh.
see your new custom event
yeah. So you go here,
for audience,
And
create a
create-
custom.
yep, create a custom conversion, and then those are all my ad accounts. So right here, standard events, custom events. So right there where I set that 5-second one, right?
Passed all through.
Yep, passed it all through. So now I'm creating custom conversion off of people watching my 5-second,
Wow.
being on my
Two
site for 5
competitors should work
seconds.
together, huh?
Yeah. And then you just name it, obviously. Select a category. So, don't do purchase if it's an upsell. Do anything else, doesn't really matter at that point. And you can put a value. So this is where, if you do an upsell, I usually just do like view content because they viewed the page, right? You could do other if you want, but view content's usually the one I do. And then right here, I just type, oh, that was a value of $9.97. Let's do a 5-second. Yep. So
That's cool.
and now that's set. And so then when you go into like your
So you put that value at 997.
well, that was just an example. If I were to do that on a OTO page, I would put the value there, because when I come to Ads Manager here,
It's gonna show you.
I can pull that column, and then I can say like what's my return on. So right, so you go to here and you go to customize columns.
This is what like Partly Paper does.
Yep.
That's what I mean. They're already looking at relevant numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, do you know what reach is? Because I still don't, you know.
So see, this is very similar to like what we would do with our like page scroller. Probably don't have enough traffic to pull it up, but it would be there. Yeah, I don't have enough traffic. But if I had enough, obviously people hit the page, it would appear. So yeah, and so then over here it would show that I have 5 seconds because that's the event that I'm tracking, right? And then if I had a value on it, I know people that hit that tag or that trigger, if it's showing 5, then you can select the other column, like what's the value of that? And it'll say, what's that, $5,000 essentially. So then you can see all these columns across here. Then you can quickly look and say, oh, like I have this many people hitting my page, but I have this many people staying 5 seconds, I have this many people. So like you can really customize out these columns to like quickly look at what your KPIs are and like know what's happening on your entire funnel or your entire website. So yeah. Yep, that's it.
Mind blowing, huh?
What's that? Yeah.
Well, while you're getting a breather here for a sec, so there's the book I talked about. Like I said, I don't make anything from this. You guys should buy it anyway. But like I said, we're gonna give it away. I have a little nothing fancy, just a random number generator. So I already have the book. I had bought Reno the book as a little thank you, whatever. So there's 6 of you left. So I'll just hit we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hit generate. And number 3. There you go. Guys. Very fun. But anyway, what's it called?
Targeting recipes.
It's a
like
good
just
book.
a book.
It's way good. It gives. I mean, I think
And it's
Reno shared a lot of good ideas anyway.